Hello everyone, welcome to another Pick'em video. It's going into week 4. Today's Thursday. We got Thursday Night Football on tap, so it's time to get this rolling. If you're new here, this is the board where we have all the games, and didn't do a video yesterday because I just wanted to take a day off. So daily videos are still the goal around here, but there's going to be some days where just a mental health day is needed. So going forward, we'll try to do what we can, but don't anticipate every single day. There might be some misses. It's also just now deciding to thunderstorm here, so you might hear that in the background. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to pick all the NFL games for week 4. Before we get to this, before we start making picks, there is a notable game missing from the board. Normally we have 3 full columns in the Monday night game here at the bottom, but the Steelers and Titans has been postponed to a later date. And we are now victims of the reality that we live in, where we have kicked a football game down the road, if you will. And it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. It's not like the NBA or the NHL where these players are secluded in a bubble, if you will. So there was going to be an outbreak somewhere. I mean, we saw it quite a bit over the regular season for baseball. A few teams, the Cardinals, the Marlins, those two come to mind. I can't remember if it was the Phillies or the Mets that were another one. But in baseball, you have a little bit more flexibility. You can have double headers. You can reschedule on off days. It's not as taxing as football season is, and that's going to cause a problem. We don't have any updates on the game or when that reschedule might happen. They're going to have to do a lot of shifting, so it is what it is. As far as the other teams involved, the Vikings, they resume practice today at their facility. It looks like that game is a go, so no worries there. But we're beginning with the Broncos and the Jets for Thursday night. And I know that this is kind of a meme game for everybody because it's the Broncos, it's the Jets. They're both 0-3. They have really horrible rosters. The Broncos are in this position because of injury. They've lost Courtland Sutton. Drew Lock is out for a significant amount of time. I don't think he's on season-ending IR, but still, it's going to be a while before we see him again. Jeff Driscoll came in as the backup, played good the first game. Second game, he was benched in favor of Brett Rypien. So Brett Rypien will be the starting quarterback for tonight's game against Sam Darnold and an offense that has no other serviceable players. I don't even know how to say it any nicer than that. So if you're into fantasy football, you're probably playing Melvin Gordon, Noah Fant tonight, and that's it. So this one's difficult to pick. It really is, because I think the better coaching staff and the better roster belongs to the Broncos. The Jets have the better quarterback. It's not saying much. I still believe in Sam Darnold. I think he's just in a piss-poor situation, which is being driven by the worst coach in the NFL. The rumor mill is that if the Jets lose, Adam Gase is fired, which is what I would want. And I want to say that, this year being the year that it is, it means that we're probably going to have a Jets win, and Adam Gase is going to live to fight another day. But I'm going to go for the glass half full approach. I'm going to enjoy some Thursday night football, and I'm going to pick the Denver Broncos to win. I'm actually intrigued to watch the game. I'm going to watch it just because, A, I want to see how bad of a dumpster fire the Jets really are. I want to see it for myself. And B, being the draft nerd that I am, I want to see Brett Rypien play, who I thought could have been, a higher draft pick than what he was. I forget where he was, but I know it was pretty low. Because he's got some good traits to him. He just doesn't have the standout athletic ability that you see with quarterbacks that go in the first few rounds. So I'm excited to see him play. Excited to see Jerry Jeudy in his first game. I haven't watched the Broncos game yet. So yeah, very excited to see it. Can't wait. All right, moving on to the Colts and the Bears. As I've said already, the Bears are a fraudulent 3-0 team. I don't believe that this team is going to continue its winning ways. Nick Foles is now the starter, and I don't think you can go back to Trubisky. I think the Trubisky era is over unless Nick Foles just stinks up the joint or gets hurt. There's just no going back. Allen Robinson's pretty good. He had a good game last week. Tariq Cohen has been lost for the year with an ACL injury, so that's going to put more weight on David Montgomery, which is good for me because I have him in fantasy football. On the Colts side, the emergence of Mo Alley Cox is an inspiring story. They've lost Paris Campbell for the year. I think it was the year. I'm not sure 100% on that. Phillip Rivers hasn't played very well. He's played good enough. It's not the 2018 version of Phillip Rivers. We are definitely getting the 2019 version of Phillip Rivers this year. They also lost Marlon Mack. But I think for the most part, I have to give the edge I have to give the edge to the Colts because I just think that the magic is going to run out for Chicago this week. If Chicago moves into Week 5 at 4-0, I'm going to be mega surprised. So I'm going to go with the Colts. I think they have the better team. I think they have the more cohesive offense. And I think Jonathan Taylor is going to be pivotal to this matchup. Moving on to the Jaguars and the Bengals. I missed on both of these teams last week. I picked the Jaguars to beat the Dolphins in Thursday Night Football, and I picked the Bengals to beat the Eagles, but that ended up at a tie. So here we are with a 1-3 team versus a 1-2 or an 0-2-1 team. I like both quarterbacks, Gardner Minshew, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has looked good in his rookie season so far. Other than that, there isn't really all that much to say. I could talk about James Robinson being a pretty decent undrafted free agent. What a good, good player he's been in a situation where we started the year with Leonard Fournette, and then we didn't know it was going to be Armstead or Ozigbo, and then it ends up being Robinson, and he does pretty well. I still think I want to give Joe Burrow a win because they played good enough to beat the Eagles. They just weren't able to finish them off. And I think this week they can finish off the Jaguars. I really do. It's probably going to be a bounce back week for Jay Gruden. I don't think he called a really good game plan last week against the Dolphins. Got caught off guard a little bit with the absence of DJ Chark. But I'm still going to give it to the Bengals. I like Joe Burrow, and I think the offense is good enough to put up enough points where the Jaguars are going to have to play from behind. Next, we have the Browns and the Cowboys. Cowboys have just had a couple of tough breaks this year. They've played a pretty hard schedule. The Seahawks game was really good. They just couldn't finish it off. I think the first game against the Rams was probably a trap game that they weren't ready for, and the Rams have played well this year. So there's really no fault in that loss. So they're 1-2, but I don't fault any of the losses that they have on their record. They've played a tough schedule so far. They're just lucky that they didn't shoot themselves in the foot enough time to get the L against the Falcons and wind up being 0-3. So the window of opportunity remains open. The Browns are a good football team. The problem is that can they survive a shootout? Because the Cowboys defense is definitely a team you could score on, and so is the Browns. So how well can they hold up with Dak Prescott, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper? This might be Amari Cooper's breakout game this season. Hasn't had one yet. And then you have what's his name, Wilson, that emerged last week. Can this front seven stop Ezekiel Elliott? I don't know. I think the Cowboys have too many weapons, and then to put the pressure on Baker Mayfield, he's going to have to prove that he can win this game in the shootout, because they might have to not necessarily abandon the run, but they might have to use it less than they would like. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys to win this game. I could be entirely wrong. This one's a 50-50 to me. There is a lot of chalk in the schedule this week, a lot of favorable matchups for certain teams, but this one I think is pretty evenly split. But I'm giving the edge to the Cowboys because they've been hyper competitive in their first three losses, as opposed to the Browns in their first loss of the season. They were non-existent. So edge to the Cowboys, but by a hair. Moving on to the Saints and the Lions. This would be easier if we would just stop kidding ourselves and just name Jameis Winston the starter. I know that's never going to happen because Drew Brees is a first ballot Hall of Famer who brought a Super Bowl to that city and has done extraordinary things since he's been there. But at the same time, he can't push the ball down the field. He doesn't throw passes over 10 yards. I don't know if Michael Thomas is going to be available this weekend. That is still up in the air. It's only Thursday. On the other side, the Lions squeaked out a win against the Cardinals last week with a last-minute field goal. They're probably still kicking themselves for that loss that they suffered in the opener to the Bears. So there's a small window that they could be 2-1. But I would be calling them fraudulent if that were the case. I don't believe in Matt Patricia. I don't believe in his coaching style or trying to make them the Patriots of the NFC North. The Saints are too good. Alvin Kamara is too good. I don't think that they'll have an answer for him. So it's likely going to be a shootout in a sense that the shootout is elongated because it's going to be a lot of short passing plays for the Saints and a lot of deep throws for the Lions. I'm going to go with the Saints. No reason really to start thinking that Sean Payton is going to get out-coached by Matt Patricia. Moving on to the Seahawks and the Dolphins, I don't need to spend much time on this one. Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to have a lot of magic in his beard to beat the current MVP favorite, Russell Wilson. Yes, they do have a really good secondary, but I don't think Byron Jones has played or practiced enough really to have a significant impact, even though Noah Igbenogany has played well and they still have Xavier Howard. Um, so it's kind of going to be like, I don't really see anybody out there that can stop, DK Metcalf unless we sort of dig up the ghost of Darrelle Revis, if you will. So Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson, that's a pretty unstoppable force. And it's probably going to be too much for the Dolphins. This isn't going to be Gardner Minshew and Keelan Cole. This is going to be some serious playoff competitors. So edge to Seattle. Moving on to the Chargers and the Bucks. Justin Herbert had a struggle bus of a game last week with the fumbles and the turnovers, but he still managed to put up decent stats. I don't know. This one's kind of split for me. I still think that the Bucks have the edge because that defense is emerging, and that is with the NFC rookie Defensive Player of the Month, Antoine Winfield Jr. And this might be a little bit of a bias sneaking in just because he's from Minnesota. Well, he played at Minnesota Golden Gophers. But I think I have to give the edge to the Bucks. There's no real reason to pick against them in this scenario because they haven't really given me one yet. Even in their loss to the Saints, they still played pretty well. There was some mistake football, but that was the first week. So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers for this one, even though I do think it's going to be closer than some people might realize. Ravens football team. This one's not going to be close. The Ravens are going to come back from their loss to the Chiefs last week where they looked inept on Monday Night Football. And they're just going to lay the smack down on the Washington football team because as good as the football team's defense has played, I don't think it's going to be ready for this. I don't think they have the talent on offense to keep up if the scoring is going to happen at the frequency that I think it should. Because I think that having come off the loss to the defending Super Bowl champions, a team that they very damn well believe that they're going to see again in January, they're going to be motivated. So a motivated Ravens team is dangerous. And going up against the Washington football team, this is not a trap game. This is going to be hard for them. So watch out, Dwayne Haskins and company. Moving on to the Cardinals and the Panthers. I am 0-3 in Panthers games so far this year. I picked against them twice, and I picked I picked 2 upsets for them, and then I picked against them last week, and then they friggin' win. So I can't pick their games correctly for some reason. So you know what? I find that offensive. I'm personally offended by you, Carolina Panthers. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals. Actually, the actual football reason is going to be I believe that this is a bounce back week for Arizona. Much like the Ravens were humbled last week, the Cardinals were as well. They're going to definitely be looking for Kyler Murray to have more mistake-free football because he committed 3 interceptions last week. And going up against the Panthers, who have a very young defense, probably have some speed in the areas to keep up with Kyler Murray on the ground, but they're not going to have the speed and experience to keep up with DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray himself. And then we saw a good emergence of Andy Isabella last week, so if that keeps up, then this defense is going to be in for a world of hurt. They also still don't have Christian McCaffrey on the Panthers side, but it didn't seem to matter last week. They won the game. They still have DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, but the Arizona Cardinals defense is much better. I give the Cardinals the edge. Vikings and Texans. Boy, it's hard to not be biased when your team is 0-3 because you want to either A, rip them apart, or B, make a whole bunch of excuses. Those things, neither of which I'm going to do. So for this game, it's going to be a struggle bus for the reality of the situation that is that they have had an interrupted week of practice. As I mentioned at the top of the video, their facility just reopened today after they've had a couple of days of negative tests. No Vikings player, personnel, or staff member has tested positive. The Texans are still a really good football team. They've just had a really, really BS start to their schedule, given that whoever makes the schedule hates these guys because they opened with the Chiefs, and then they played the Ravens, and then they played the Steelers. It's just really unfair when you think of it. So they've underachieved. The offensive line for the Texans started bad in week 1. It's gotten better since then. Tyus Howard has improved. They still have David Johnson, who has looked better this year. He's shedding tackles like he did 5 years ago. The problem is going to be the health of the wide receivers. Will Fuller just appeared on the injury report for the Texans today. Surprise. Randall Cobb and Brandon Cooks, they're not spry anymore. That is, nothing to shake a stick at. But The secondary for the Vikings is still very inexperienced, very young. They did better last week when they had a game plan where they were able to utilize the safeties in creative ways. Cam Dantzler is probably coming back. He's practiced in full today. Mike Hughes is going to be out. He was another did not practice for today. I believe he's missed 5 straight, so he's definitely not going to be in there. It would take a miracle, I think, at this point for him to play. So really, it's just a matter of who's going to score more points on offense. And as we saw last week, we lost on account of 6 field goals, 3 of which were from beyond 50. So I have no confidence, despite the improved play by the Vikings last week, that they can pull this one out, because I think the Texans are probably going to be the second best team that they've faced, the first team being the Packers. So yeah, it's unfortunate that we're going to be this bad at 0-4, but I don't really see a confident way to pick my own team to win a game this week. I think Deshaun Watson's going to light it up, and David Johnson's going to be an integral piece to kill the clock, and that's going to be all she wrote. So unless the Vikings can figure it out and figure out a way to stop Deshaun Watson and company a couple times, they're going to be in trouble. Moving on to the Giants and the Rams, this one's pretty easy. No Saquon Barkley. Joe Judge is a terrible head coach. I have no reason to believe he's anything other than that after his horrendous start and his style of coaching, if you will. It's too much. It's too much. The Giants are just as bad as the Jets. It's just less obvious. It's not as dramatic. Everything that Adam Gase does is dramatic because everything that he does is a head-scratching, questionable decision, like having Chris Herndon blocked for an entire game. On the other side of the stadium with the New York Giants, it's just bad luck and extreme misfortune. And Daniel Jones has not ascended in year 2 like we all thought he would. Although given that his offensive line hasn't played well, Saquon Barkley's out for the year, and they've also lost Sterling Shepard. The Rams are playing just as good football as they did 2 years ago on their run to the Super Bowl. This defense still has Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Darnold. Aaron Darnold is going to terrorize Daniel Jones this weekend, and there's nothing they can do to stop him. So I give the edge to the Rams, and I'm picking them to win the game. Patriots Chiefs. I'm going to go with the Chiefs because I don't have a reason not to pick them. The Patriots have lost the game. The Chiefs look like they are finally putting the pedal to the metal with the offense. We said back in week 1 that it looked like they sort of, had their foot off the gas, or they were only in like first or second gear. Now I believe they've cranked that up to much higher levels in terms of high octane scoring, and they seem to be scoring at will with just about any player they can think of, as we saw with the fullback and the left tackle getting touchdown passes last week. So the thing with the Patriots this year is that it's just a different football team, and they're still winning games, and they're still definitely meant to be taken seriously. But at the same time, it's not going to be a team that can air raid you and keep up in a scoring fest. So the strategy for the Patriots is going to have to be where they eat up as much clock as they can, take their time with this Navy triple option that they got going on. Damian Harris comes off IR this week, so there's a chance he could be involved. I don't think we're going to see a repeat performance of what Rex Burkhead did last week. I think that was a flash in the pan, and it usually is with the Patriots backfield, where they have one good game and then we never hear from them again. So you'll see a lot of Sony Michel. You'll see a lot of Cam Newton running the ball. N'Keal Harry and Julian Edelman will be integral to help keep moving the chains for them. They have to keep the offense on the field as long as possible to take away time and possessions for the Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. That's the only way they can beat them. And then they're going to have to hope that Stephon Gilmore can cover 5 receivers at one time. I don't think that that's possible. I'm going with the Chiefs. I have no reason to pick against them, at least not at this juncture. Next, we got the Bills and the Raiders. Raiders were brought back down to earth last week by the Patriots. And the Bills, they played a good game. They were able to fend off the Rams making a dramatic comeback, but they marched it down the field at the end of the game for a final touchdown to win it all. Bills are 3-0. And just much like the Chiefs, I have no real reason to pick against them. The Raiders are pretty injured right now. I think their best wide receiver option they have available is Bryan Edwards. And much like the Patriots did last week, which I predicted correctly, they were going to double Darren Waller and take him away as an option. I think they'll do the same in Buffalo, having seen that blueprint, take it from their division rival, and implement it in their own game in their own way. So once again, Derek Carr is going to be forced to look elsewhere. Darren Waller will probably see an uptick in production because they're not as good at scheming as Bill Belichick is. Nobody is. But I still believe that this is the Bills' game to lose. Next, we have the Eagles and the 49ers. This one's pretty easy. Carson Wentz is just absolutely abysmal right now. They had one healthy wide receiver on the 53-man roster practice today. Jalen Reagor is out. I believe he's on IR now. There's just no other decent pass-catching option other than Zach Ertz. Almost forgot his name for some reason. So Goddard and Reagor are hurt. Deshaun Jackson is hurt. Alshon Jeffrey is still not playing. I don't think he's practiced yet. I know he's like not on injured reserve, but at the same time, he's of no use right now. So Carson Wentz is struggling. The offensive line is struggling. He has no real talent around him to make plays. The defense isn't good. They don't have any good linebackers. So it's going to be a long year in Philadelphia unless something gets figured out. Maybe they make a trade. They do something. Maybe they put in Jalen Hurts, see what they got, and just tank. I have no idea where you go from here if you're Philly. But the rails are falling off. So 49ers is, even with as much injuries as the 49ers have themselves. Monday Night Football, Packers Falcons. This is another potential game where we could see a head coach get fired. It's amazing it hasn't happened yet. But Dan Quinn is definitely on the hottest of hot seats. And he goes up against a Green Bay team that is just scoring and moving the ball at will. So this is dangerous. The Falcons' offense is bad. It's putrid. Julio Jones has the hamstring injury that he's still kind of questionable with. Calvin Ridley's having a number one type of year, and what's his name? Their third wide receiver, I forget for some reason. It's not Greg Ward, but somebody is having a good year as well. Todd Gurley seems to be lost in the shuffle, but game script has been negative. They've had to play from behind quite a bit. So the Falcons versus the Packers. One thing I noted on the injury report today for the Packers is that Adam Lazard has a core injury, which is significant. So I don't think we're going to see him in this game. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be limited. So this could be closer than we think. I think the Falcons, they're going to do whatever they can to get a win because 0-4 is just unacceptable. Because the season is lost for the second straight year in a row. I mean, they started 1-7 last year, but they ended pretty good. I think they ended 6-10. I want to say, I don't remember. But it was the tale of two halves last year, and this is shaping up to be the same way. I don't trust the Falcons as far as I can throw them. Aaron Rodgers has entered his name into the MVP race with consistent play through 3 weeks, despite who his pass catchers are. It's funny that their first three draft picks haven't really contributed worth of damn. Jordan Love, A.J. Dillon, and the guy they got from Cincinnati. His name escapes me at the moment, but it doesn't matter because Aaron Rodgers is going to will this team to victory. I think the Packers take it in prime time, so I will pick the Packers over the Falcons on Monday Night Football. Those are your Week 3 picks. And as we noted at the beginning of the episode, the Titans and Steelers is absent from this due to it being postponed, so we're not going to pick that one. We're just going to chalk that up to a canceled game. So those are the picks for Week 3. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.